MMTs, what we're going to do is we're going to take a walk around Wall Street here a little bit in the global parts, all red, auto manufacturers globally, mixed bag. Biotechnology, on the other hand, let's take a look at the biotechnology here. Little bit of positives that we have in here. So there's a little bit of positive, a little bit of buy. Morgan Stanley Biotech Index. These are the numbers that we're looking at. So there is a little bit. We got Gilead, Celgene, Veritox Pharmaceuticals, and whatnot. Down here we got Biogen, Genzyme is still ticking along. Just remember, all of the NAs are companies that have been bought out over time that they used to be in the index. Let's take a look at the pharmaceuticals today. That's where we're seeing some buying right here. In the drug index, a little bit of buying across the board there. As far as gold and silver today, so far, distribution here. Okay, these miners, these stocks, you can see here, gap open on them. This is the gap open column, but look at here, they were all shorts, as I said. Commodity related stocks, and of course that's naturally intraday, wherever that money is going to print. Materials here, commodity related materials index is selling off. The natural gas, which was on fire, we have distribution. The oil patch, which has been on fire, is nothing but distribution. The bank, Deutsche Bank Energy, we got nothing but distribution. Look at that. Morgan Stanley, look at that, look at that, look at that. That's the oil services. How do you like that? That's Morgan Stanley Oil Services Index. Oil services of some of the leaders under profit taking. That means it looks like technology must be doing well. Let's take a look in financial services. Let's take a look at the S&P banking index. There we have the banking index, which has been a laggard for a number of years. You're catching a bid here. That's what's given that S&P a holding, and some of the others. Let's take a look at the key KBW banking index, Philadelphia banking index. You got all green there, so they're using the financials to keep it alive. Security brokers and dealers, well, you got Goldman and whatnot in here, and there's just a little bit of buying, but we can see that now in the ag space. In the fertilizers, once again, I got distribution, gap open, sell short, gap open, negative intraday, sell short. Restaurant stocks, which we enjoy selling short. There's profit taken. Every one of these cannot withstand higher commodities over the longer term. They need to be sold short and held for a number of months. Healthcare, on the other hand, it's got a fairly decent maybe story. Let's take a look. No, them HMOs, all distribution. But then when we get into the casinos, we got distribution here too. So we do have distribution so far. The housing sector, which has been beaten up forever, we weren't looking for much out of there. But the retail shorts, that Morgan Stanley retail, overbought. They need to come down. Morgan Stanley consumer, they're trying to keep cost averaging in here at the lows, but let me tell you, moving forward for several months, we see nothing but problems for them. This here is the cyclicals that are under pressure. Not only that, let's take a look at some of the more wonderful areas. Semiconductors, what are they doing in the Philly Stock Semiconductor Index? How about it? We got a little distribution and a little bit of buying, but them gap open on the indexes. We can see where that distribution came in. Semiconductor capital equipment, broad-based selling, we can see that there. Semiconductor devices across the board, somewhat of a little distribution, some buy. But here, let's get down into that big technology. Let's get down into that CBOE technology. These are some of the technology names here that is in this particular index. Let's take a look at Credit Suisse First Boston. But then again, in this technology index right here, CSFB technology, I've got distribution, and I got a little bit of buying down here, Google up down here. You got RIM, some of these other ones that happen to be in there. Computer technology, on the other hand, you got a little bit of buying coming in there and a little distribution, but it's there. Disk drives, it's always so the disk drives are doing okay. What about the Dow Jones Internet, big cap internet for the Dow Jones? Google is oversold, but the rest of them are under distribution. We were shorting Priceline at the highs up there. We talked about it. It's on stock market pending. 520 would be where the failure was, and it's already pulled back well off those highs. It was so overbought. This Netflix, once again, was a great short on the opening bell and that CRM. All stocks are overbought there. The only one I don't know that's not overbought in here is Google, and that one there. So basically, when we take a look at the interactive week internet, this is IXX. This is the price lines leading the way in here, okay? Because most of them are overbought. I'm sorry to tell you. And that's why they make good shorts. Look at the little bit of buying down here in Dell and Cisco and Google and whatnot. So basically, transportations, the airlines, under a little bit of distribution. How are they going to pass on the cost? I don't know. Dow Transportations, sorry, they're not leading the rally. Sorry, they're not leading the rally. Sorry, there's distribution. NASDAQ Transports, sorry, you don't want to see the NAS. So financials and technology is accounting for what we call the weaker part in some of the sectors. North American Telecom Index, not much going on, but you got a few things in here that are working. One of the things that we do want to take a look at is where the utilities are. The Dow Jones utility. We got money moving in there, but not much. So we can see where the sectors are. We can see where that buying is right here in the Philly Utility Index, and these are the names right here. And that's what's given the Dow, and that's what's keeping the markets from selling off right now. So basically, when you take a look at the networking, though, not much going on in the networking area. Morgan Stanley Internet Index, that's the price lines. The Baidu was a short. We told people when it got up below that 140 handle, it has to come down. They're all overbought. They all started with gaps and then immediate sells here as we see intraday. The time is 10:14 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're about halfway through the trading section. Today's date is 4/6 of 2011. MMTs can tell that on this day that where some of these indexes are right now. It's important that you understand the Dow Jones Industrial Average this is where your Dow Jones Industrial Average stocks. It's a mixed bag between them, but that's now when you take a look at the Dow Jones Composite itself, Caterpillar was so overbought. I mean, this thing has been so overbought. That's due for a pullback. Great companies overbought. So that's where we are today. And let us not forget the NASDAQ 100 right here. You can see the leaders down, just like you've seen in some of them. Look at that. Look at that NASDAQ 100. There's nothing but red there. There's nothing but red there. What did I say? Let's take a look at the NASDAQ 100 Financials Index. Looks like we've got a little distribution there, and this is all on the NASDAQ. But look at all of that green in the NASDAQ Financials. So financials are leading the way versus transports. So the financials are all catching a bid, and this is where some of the money is going because they feel it's attractive.